morning, everybody. I'm Paul Diebold with the Irvington Historical Society. We're here at the Wilson Parker Cemetery on Julian Avenue, just east of Emerson Avenue. So I'll start with the story. About 10-15 years ago, I was the president of the Irvington Historical Society, and one of the most unusual letters I ever received was from a woman named Virginia Perkins, and she was asking, is there still a tombstone in the backyard of a house on Julian Avenue at about Ritter? So that would be some blocks from where we are here at the cemetery. And if so, she wanted to know, because she had put it there. She and a friend had helped arrange to put it there, because as a child she came to the cemetery to play. There were still tombstones here in the cemetery, although a number of the burials had been removed. Coincidentally, at about this time, I received a call from someone in that house, and they were asking, is there a cemetery in my backyard, because I have a tombstone that I have found. This one thing led to another, and one of the most unusual objects we have in our collections at the Irvington Historical Society Bonna Thompson Center, it is a tombstone, and it's not because it should be on a grave. That is one of the graves that was disinterred and moved to a cemetery further east on Washington Street. Some of the burials here were removed to Crown Hill. But that's the segue. So as a young lady, she played here, and she remembered a day when she came to play. Miss Perkins came to play with her friend, and a workman was removing some of the stones and said, would you like one of these, because I've been told to remove these stones? And they said yes, we would, and they each selected one, and they were duly transported to their houses in Irvington. So some of these stones have ended up in other places. So fast forward to just not too long ago, and our township trustee, Jeff Bennett, who's now our deputy mayor, thank you, Jeff, for helping us with this site. We were able to record that it was indeed a cemetery and should be preserved as a cemetery, and Irvington Historic Landmarks Foundation now owns this property. So although some of the graves were removed, we do know of a number of other people who were buried here, who we have no record of them being disinterred. So there's good evidence to believe there are still burials here. So the interesting thing about this site, for a historic neighborhood, there really aren't very many in Indianapolis that have a site that goes back to the very sort of Euro-American roots, if you will, of the area. This cemetery was founded in about 1840, and it's still a pretty idyllic spot, as Peggy is showing you. The first people to settle here, from a Euro-American point of view, was the John Wilson family. In 1821, they entered 80 acres of land in this area, and originally their log cabin was down on the Centerville Road. The Centerville Road is what became the Pennsylvania Railroad, roughly that route. And because there was no National Road or Washington Street at that point, that was where most of the people were moving, and where there was an opportunity to have an inn. So later, in the 1830s, the National Road had been built through central Indiana. That is our Washington Street today, and that was a pioneer route of travel. That's Washington Street, just through the trees there that you can hear the traffic from. So the Wilsons moved their cabin up to the corner of Washington Street and Butler Avenue, which would be just off to this direction, off to the north and east of where I'm standing right now. And they operated that as an inn. And then the Aquila Parker family built a frame house just immediately west of us, and they operated that as a traveler's inn on the National Road. So the National Road was the route west for many families, and of course every 5 miles or so you needed to have a place to stop. So if you think about it, Cumberland is about 5 miles from where we are. I'm sure there were inns in Cumberland. And then Irvington at this corner had inns, and so this was the proverbial last stop before you got to Indianapolis, being about 5 miles. Some of the family members that are buried here include the Parker family, Jones family. We believe John Wilson himself is interred here, although he never had a marker, or if he did, it deteriorated and was gone by more recent decades. Latham family, Kahlers, who are related to the Ellenbergers, and there are various other families. There was an unmarked grave of a Revolutionary War soldier who came to settle in central Indiana, and we believe is buried here. So this is a really interesting site to have. We have a lot of very old trees here. One of the things we'd like to do at some point is use a technology called ground penetrating radar, and we'd like to identify where the burials are. This is a means of sensing without having to dig or probe or anything. And the device looks kind of like a lawnmower, and you'd simply move that back and forth across the terrain and look at the results. That way we could, more effectively identify where the burials are exactly. But the fence that encloses this area is the land that was set aside in 1840 as a cemetery. So at some point when the Bonna Thompson Center is open, we invite you to come and see our tombstone that we have that is from the cemetery here. We would probably someone is asking, well, will you put it back in the cemetery? We don't know where to put it, so we'll keep it in our collection. And furthermore, that burial has been disinterred. All the marked ones, the 10 marked ones, were disinterred. So there's no one there to mark anymore. And that where they were moved to, they have a proper marker at this point. So Peggy, are you seeing any questions coming up on the screen there at all?
No. Hi, Zach. Thanks for watching.
So the gate is normally locked here at the cemetery. You can walk up to the fence and just peek inside and take a look. It's a very tranquil spot. Earlier we were hearing roosters. It kind of was our 19th century soundtrack. We're going to sign off for today. We thank you for joining us. We'd like to repeat our request here. We do have expenses that are coming up. The Irvington Historical Society will continue to get heat bills from the winter, electrical bills, and we have no way of having programs to support these activities. So if you can visit our website, make a donation, we appreciate it. Thanks everyone. We'll see you next week.